For more on the developments in Ukraine, I'm joined from Washington by Clifford May. He's president of the Foundation of Defense of Democracies. What can we expect to come out of these discussions that are taking place right now in Geneva, Clifford?
Not a whole lot. Expectations are not being raised very high. For the moment, it seems that Vladimir Putin has the stronger cards. He's willing to use force. He has his troops ready to use force. Those in the West are not willing to do that. He knows that. Vladimir Putin is not a communist. He's a Russian nationalist, but he was raised under a Leninist regime. And Lenin said that when you probe with your bayonet, if you hit steel, you retreat. If you hit mush, you continue. And so far, Putin is hitting mush.
It was fascinating this morning, and we're showing some video of it right now. He took this open forum, open segment where he took questions from the general public, from others interested, from journalists, and he finally admitted, Clifford, that yes, indeed, there were Russian forces, not dressed necessarily in Russian uniforms, but in Crimea at the time, leading up to the vote and leading up to the annexation of it. But he's saying there are no Russians on the ground, Russian forces on the ground in parts of eastern Ukraine right now. He says those are simply people within Ukraine, Russians within Ukraine, looking for their independence.
Yes, what he revealed was something we all knew, but which he had not previously acknowledged. Whether he did that on purpose or whether he forgot himself, it's hard to say. A lot of the Russian troops are, if you see the pictures, are not wearing any insignia, but we know what's going on here. I think the other thing that was interesting is he made very clear that he has the right to intervene, and he has that right because the Russian parliament has given him that authority. Notice he said nothing about the UN, nothing about the Security Council, on which Russia has a seat, nothing about the so-called international community. The Parliament has given him the authority. He will use it if he has to. He said he hopes he doesn't have to, but he won't have to only if he won't have to so long as the West continues to back down. We in the West need to at least be thinking hard, I hope the Obama administration is, whether we draw a line somewhere, and if so, where we draw that line. Otherwise, he may continue to probe.
Canada sending 6 CF-18s, 20 advisors to NATO in Poland to help discuss the ongoing situation there. Any other pressure from any other country besides the U.S., will that have an impact on Russia? Perhaps Britain, perhaps Germany, but does Canada's role playing signify anything to Putin?
Look, Stephen Harper, I think, is doing the principled thing here. He is saying that NATO needs to be defended, NATO's borders need to be defended. Now, the proper and useful, I think, diplomacy needs to be among NATO members to say, are we going to defend NATO? It is not inconceivable that Putin may want to go further, in particular into the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, which are members of NATO, but which have substantial Russian ethnic and Russian-speaking populations. It is very much time to consider, are we going to support NATO? And I think the NATO members, Poland not least among them, is looking for some reassurance, and reassurance should be based on more than rhetoric. It should be based on the kind of gesture that the Canadian government is making today.
Cliff May speaking to us from Washington. Appreciate your time, Clifford. Thank you.
Thank you.